sometimes when there's something that is meant for us to do or to actualize and we don't, sometimes we can get ill health or, some sort of an issue, which it doesn't necessarily mean it's a disease per se.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Food Matters podcast, your home for nutrition, health, and wellness education. My name is Laurentine. I am a filmmaker and a nutritionist and the founder of foodmatters.com, and I'm here to hold your hand on this journey to optimum health, transformation, and emotional healing. Hello, Food Matters family. Our Food Matters health nuts out there. Hope you guys are all doing well, and welcome to another Food Matters podcast. So today we are talking all about sound and the medicine of sound. It's probably one of my favorite topics. And I'm so excited to be here with my dear friend, brother in crime, Chase. How are you doing, Chase?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, really, really good. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about Chase to understand more about his background so that when we are chatting with him, it can feel even more aligned. So Chase is a founder of Medicine of Sound. He's traveled the world extensively in search of different types of healing modalities. Some of his journeys have led him to the jungles of Peru and even trained with the shamans, and even to the Andes of Ecuador to learn ancient yogic practices, and to Southeast Asia to meditate with monks. He combines many different modalities to weave a unique healing experience for all those that are able to attend his sound healing, which are either in person or online. So we are really excited to have you here. And Chase, you are a sound engineer, but you are also a sound alchemist. Tell us what started your obsession with sound?
Well, I feel like ever since I was a kid, I always loved music, as probably everyone does. But as far as sound healing is concerned, it began when I was in Australia, in your neck of the woods, a little bit more north, but I was living there for a year. And there would be different people coming on the boardwalk of Surfers Paradise where I lived. And one of them was playing the didgeridoo. And when I heard the didgeridoo being played, I had heard it, I think, online before, but I had never seen it in person. And just seeing it, experiencing the vibes like going into me, and also hearing all of the nuances that this guy could play, inspired me that when I was going to come home to Canada, I had to buy one. So that was where it all began. But the journey has unfolded like drastically since then, because at no point did I think that that's what sound healing was, right? Mm-hmm. I just thought that I wanted to learn how to play this instrument. But through playing that instrument, at that point as well, I didn't know what breath work was. But when you're playing the didgeridoo, you're doing breath work and you're experiencing the vibrations like seriously going into your head, right? Which is very powerful. And through that process of learning how to play, learning how to do the breath and all of that, I just wanted to share that with people. And I started sharing it with people and just like close friends. And then I was playing the didgeridoo with this hand. And then I had an extra hand free over here. So I was like, well, what other instruments can I get? And I had seen people play these bowls. So I got a bowl and I was doing both at the same time. And I thought it was really cool. After a year of doing that, somebody who came to, because I had people refer people and stuff, had someone come and they said, oh, this is a great sound healing session. And I said, I don't know what that is. And I personally thought that it was like a very weird name. Or no, he said a sound bath. Right? And sound bath, I was like, I don't really know what he was talking about. But then he sent me links to other instruments. And from there, it just kind of all expanded. And I was like, oh, this is a whole world that I didn't know was here. But for me, it started there. And that's what got me hooked. It also was an interesting thing because I had never played any instruments prior to that, not one. Like I tried to strum a couple chords on guitar when I was like 14, but other than that, no music, anything. So that's literally what began everything, and the vibes got me hooked.
Ooh, that sounds like an exciting time for your life, when you started to realize, hey, this is actually more of my mission. This is more of my life's work. So, for those that are listening that have not necessarily been involved with any sound baths or have never experienced the feeling of a sound healing before, could you explain a little bit more about this modality? Is it a modality? Is it actually a way that we can see ourselves being healed in this past, present, and future?
Yeah, well, I'm the type of person that I like to work with synergistic practices. So, not putting all of my eggs into any sort of healing, but the things that I hold, I find it integrates everything better. It helps prepare people to go into spaces better, and it can be its own experience on its own. But for people that haven't experienced it, I would suggest one-on-one for your first time and hopefully a practitioner that puts bowls or something directly onto you. Because for a lot of people, if they're doing it at a studio and they're very far from the bowls, you might not be experiencing it quite as profoundly. Whereas the closer the sounds are to you, so if you get to the class, you can get as close as you can to the bowls, but the closer you are to it, the more you'll feel it. Kind of like if someone's giving you a massage and they're not doing it very hard, and then they're doing it harder, and then after you're like, whoa, I can totally feel what happened here, right? And then maybe over a period of time, you don't need it so on you or so brute force, right? But yeah, that's something I suggest always. But I also suggest to the people that I teach to get the sounds as close as you can to people.
Yeah, and so tell us a little bit, like when we talk about the word healing, we also associate that with people that may have a condition that they're dealing with, or an issue that they're going through. So, what types of illnesses or conditions would you say would work really well for sound healing? I'd imagine, from the common cold to the cancer, like what type of conditions would we see would work for people that are dealing with, yeah, what sort of illnesses would we see be healed by this?
Yeah, well, anything where it is triggered or brought about more by an overstimulated nervous system, right? So through stress. I myself had IBS for a very long time. It just so happened that there were many foods inevitably that triggered it, but those foods were triggering a stress response, right? And I feel like synergistically, as I had said, with a bunch of other practices that I had been doing, sounds were very beneficial because for me, I found meditating quite hard. It was just my mind's active. I'm busy. There's so many things to stimulate, so many things to do always. So when I have a bowl, I can just hit it and just focus on that sound, right? For some people, they can focus on a candle. That works. But sounds, they're just very, very powerful. And from that place, we are just intending to bring about calm. And in that calm space, our body will do whatever healing it's capable of doing. Sometimes, if we have cancer, if it's gone to that point, of course, you and I both know, preemptive things are better. What I don't know what you call it, but like doing it before the issue comes is going to be significantly more wise. But if you're already at that point, pack everything on, like do a diet, do sound, do acupuncture, but yeah, if you have a big issue, I would not turn to sound healing as this is going to be the one size fits all fix for you, right? It's for me, it's something that I integrate into my life, and it keeps my vibe higher, right? And that to me is the most important thing, so that I don't get sucked into different timelines.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so, in regards to the history of sound healing and sound medicine, could you tell us a little bit more about where it actually came from, and how we have, as a species, interacted with sound?
All right. Well, I am not a historian, but from what I know is the thing that I tell people is that every single shaman is a sound healer. Not every single sound healer is a shaman, right? So, the most ancient sound healers were using rattles, bundles of leaves. We inevitably turn those into drums. So those, like, I'd say every tradition utilizes sounds, and they use those vibes in different ways. But as simple as the instruments can be, they don't act, they are equally as powerful, let's say, as a crystal bowl. They're just like the intention that we're bringing to it, and the willingness of the facilitator and the participant to be giving and receiving in that space is what's going to create that unfolding. So that was probably as old as humans have ever been, right? As soon as we could discover a beat, we discovered a way to create it. Then from that place, from what I've heard or learned very slightly, is that we discovered brass and or something like that, and we could create Tibetan bowls and gongs. I don't know how long ago that was. I don't know the history as far as that is concerned, but I do know that at that point, what did they call it? The gong was like known as the instrument that was the bringer of peace. And that to me was all I really needed to know about the history of all of this. But yeah, I did some training in Peru, and they use an instrument called a chacapa, which is a bundle of leaves. And it's very, very simple, rudimentary, but very, very powerful. And I love it literally as much as any instrument that I own. And participants often compliment that instrument more than anything else, because I think there are some instruments that are in our DNA. They're just deep, and we know them from past lives, right? So
I totally agree with that. And I remember for the first time when I was in Morocco and I was listening to a drumming ceremony, and I felt so connected with the drum. It was transformative. It actually put me into a trance. And later on, as I realized, and I was speaking to the drummers in the drumming circle, one of the men there of the circle said to me, the drum represents your first sound as a child in the womb, where you're listening to your mom's heartbeat.
mm,
And when I contemplated that, I realized, that is such a beautiful story, because, we are all tied to the drum. We're all tied to our mother's heartbeat. We're tied to our own heartbeat. And sometimes when we do have those states of, like you're saying, when our minds are out of control, or we have all these thoughts streaming through our minds, what is the best way to go back? What's the best way to go back in and to connect? I find any type of drum or bass or rhythm that allows us to get back into that trance state, to be able to connect us back with a heartbeat, our mother's heartbeat, the sensations that we had as a child in the womb, our own heartbeat. So it is a very powerful medicine to get us back into a state of harmony. And personally, have you experienced as well, when you first started doing sound healings and you started feeling better? Can you tell us about your transformations when you first started receiving them?
when I when I first started to receive them, I was in Bali, and that was right after I had been in Australia, and I was staying at not staying at, but I was going to the yoga barn. And when I was there were some people doing what I would say is like using Indian instruments to do a soundscape, and I don't know what they were using, harmonium for sure, but I just laid back and I told him after, I was like, man, I went somewhere. Like, what happened? And he's the nicest guy, like so kind. And he's like, brother, you just let it all happen, and whatever has to happen, happens, and you'll feel good. I was like, okay, well, I trust this guy because I can feel in him, he's gone through this. So the activation point was very dreamy, right? It was the littlest of effort, not like when I would do ayahuasca, right? Very, very different. Yeah, it is so light, so peaceful. And through that place, what had happened was I'd go to the sound baths, and then when I would come home, I would lay down on the ground as if I was receiving sounds, but I would just be on my own. And I guess you could say it was a shavasana of sorts. But I think I would tiptoe in between sleep, but I would be in this in between world. And there's a lot of communication that happens in that place, and a lot of, and it's not so much that that communication was healing me. It was just like I feel like the density of my body and my past and the stories just needed time to recalibrate.
Mm.
And I didn't have to force anything. I didn't have to make it so like struggle based. It was just surrender, pop, get yourself into the pocket of relaxation and let that, do its thing to recalibrate that stress, right?
It's an important modality for our modern world, as we live in a time where, especially in big cities, where we're so bombarded by everything that has stimuli, right? So it's from when the moment we wake up, we have an alarm, which is a sound that vibrates over our head. And then, most of us grab our phone, turn the alarm off, and go onto social media. Here we are scrolling. We're like, someone said to me, when you go on social media first thing in the morning, it's like opening the doors to all these family members, friends, and unknowns all of a sudden in the morning, having breakfast, coffee, and dinner with you all at the same time
Mm,
and hearing all their stories.
mm-hmm.
So true, right? Like you're on someone's storyline. All of a sudden you're in France or in Germany. Oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. And then, somehow we have to get up and go to work. And, again, the barrage of the information overload that we are dealing with on a day to day basis. So when you are in a sound experience, it really allows you to finally be at peace with yourself, to really recalibrate our nervous system. I really want to hone in on the actual experience of it. If you can explain to those listeners right now that are still on the fence about, whether or not the sound bath is for them, the idea of lying down. I mean, isn't that just the most simplest thing? Like if you're not into meditation, you're not necessarily too much into yoga or any other types of Reiki, then the idea of just lying down in shavasana, like you said, and receiving is very powerful. Can you tell us a little bit more, perhaps about the way that you would use the sound healing in what our brain does and how like the states, the alpha, beta, and theta states work? And for those that are interested in helping themselves with the nervous system problems?
Yeah, so one thing that I love to say is sound healing is a very extravagant shavasana. That's basically what we're doing. It's funny because I can be this person right here training people, having had this experience, but having no left brain understanding. Like I know very little about the nuances of what is technically supposed to be happening, or when sometimes people will be saying, what does this sequence of tones do? My belief system about this entire thing is essentially, if I am focused on my goal, which for me, my goal is presence and beingness, every single thing that I ever do will either be an extension of me being in that state or helping to show me how I'm not in that state, therefore helping me get into alignment with that state. So beingness, an unstimulated place, right? A non-stimulated phone state, right? Um, the sounds are basically, as far as I experience them, I don't know about the states and all that, but what I do know is that when we are laying down, we are welcoming beingness. But when we have visions and we have these feelings and we're breathing deep and we're feeling energy, like sometimes, not everybody does, but at some points you can feel energy flowing through you and leaving and all of this stuff. It is just creating space for beingness. Like we're letting go of what doesn't serve and beingness can reside. And it's in that beingness that healing already is. It's not that healing occurs because of that state. It's that when we're in beingness, we truly are like in a perpetual state of healing. And it can sometimes take great humility for some of us, that have practiced Eastern spirituality, meditated for long periods of time, and then we develop issues and we go, yeah, 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 but I already know about beingness, right? Knowing about beingness, right? And the knowing, so for me, like I am a very intellectual person to some degree for some things. With sound healing, I pretty much stay out of it. And I just like let the sounds do their thing. I'm going
Mm.
to make a sound, and whatever the sound, whatever happens. Also, if you have a vision, if they try to ask me what it means, truly, I think that all communication that takes place is in unraveling of things that are just not serving. You don't really need to make sense of things most of the time, because it depends what our goal is, though. If our goal is to be like, I want to go into a past life and I want to do that with some bowls and da da da, that's its own experience. But if our goal is healing and beingness, just let everything happen, and it will take you to the place you need to be, if that's what your goal is, right? And it is a very simple place, and we can complicate it, and we can also, read a whole book about it and be like, okay, I'm going to get these exact tones, and then these tones are going to do the thing for me because I have this problem, so I need these tones. And I don't know. I don't know if that's true. At least it hasn't been true for me.
Yeah, I love the way that you answer that, because it's like, well, there's a certain type of people that learn through scientific information, right? And there's sort of type of people that will just like learn from just feeling it and their beingness, right? And so it's true. Like when you play, and I'm sure that you do this as a teacher and a practitioner, when you play, you are at a state, you're at a vibrational state that is so peaceful that just through the work, through the music, through the sound that's coming out of you, you're actually putting through entrainment, you're putting all of us in that same vibrational state. All those people that are in your room at that stage are feeling the same energy and vibrations as you are. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful unified field. And I mean, I love this topic as well, because I love the practice, the giving, the receiving of sound healing and the sound as medicine. And like, what sort of, as a teacher, what got you into being able to go, you know what, this is my life's mission. I would like to practice, like to train more people to become practitioners. What was that sense inside of you that was like, I need to do this?
Yeah, well, and as few of words as I am on the history of this, and also the intellectual understanding of how it works, I have a lot of words when it comes to training, right? There's a lot of nuances and things and holding space, but what happened was, funny enough, I did a program, and the program was so bad, and I was like, I could teach this better than him. And I made a program, and that's how it started. And I had already been doing sound healing for about 5 years by then. So I was really looking for something to be like, okay, what am I missing as far as the technique is concerned? And really, I wasn't missing anything. And what that training lacked, I was like, oh, if anyone's trying to learn this stuff and they did this here, I would feel really bad if I have more info than this person is willing to give for the level one, so I was like, I need to do a training for all of the people that need it, because I would have wanted that, right? And it's kind of like a paying forward of, you can't unknow what you know, because I now knew that like the trainings out there must potentially not be that good. I don't really know, right? I only did one, and then I decided I am going to teach this, and the feedback has obviously been amazing. I don't know. I have like probably 14 or 1500 reviews on all of my things that I offer. So through that process, I got a lot of feedback of like, okay, this is what worked. Then a lot of questions. So I've my main training that I did was about 4 years ago now, and I just launched a program 6 months ago, and that one is like way more in depth as far as all of the nuances of space holding, and teaching every single thing that I know how to do as far as space holding is concerned. So I've been holding space and facilitating circles for like 10 years now. So there's a lot that I've learned in that time. And it's what I do full time, right? So this is what I do consistently, no breaks, no real holidays or anything. So I'm constantly going, but it is a labor of love. But why I do it is because I continually see the growth happening in people, right? It's not so much that I'm seeing miraculous healing taking place. What I am seeing is consistent leveling up and expansion of people in their journey. And that is something that is extremely rewarding. And when I look at, what if I were to train people to do this with and for others, I don't know if there's anything more rewarding than that too, right? So I'm doing it, facilitating it, and teaching people how to do it. Yeah, it's just the best. I don't know.
Oh,
That's why
it
I do it.
seems like you're living your passion for sure. There's
Absolutely, yeah.
nothing better than being in flow and being able to teach what you absolutely love. Yeah.
Mm.
And so, with your course, I also understand that there is a special type of crystal singing bowl that you have been working with. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? Did you design it yourself, or how did you come up with this?
All right, so my preferred method is using the one that I invented, which is called the magnetic crystal singing bowl, and it looks like this. So this is basically a crystal bowl. You can see there are magnets on the bottom. You can see that there's a magnet on the inside. That's what's holding it on. It's very, very sturdy. And then you've got a handle here. And the handle is completely removable, so you can take the bowl off like so. And you can be playing it like this, and you can be holding the plate. You can place the plate directly onto the participant. This is the thing, right? I love sound healing. I've been doing it for a long time. So naturally, what happens for probably an ADHD and or creative person will be to fix things, right? Because I love the sound of crystal bowls, always have, but I didn't love the fact that they're not very versatile, and it felt like they should be. They're very small, they're light. So I thought of the idea first of stabilizing it, and I stabilized it by putting something inside of it, but it didn't really work. And then I just thought of this idea. I was like, what if I attach one on the bottom and then put one inside? And the first time I did it, I was actually like, this is too good to be true, because the bowl, when you give it a hit, it reverberated for like about 50% longer, which, just aside from me being able to hold it like this, changed everything. Then the fact that it would go longer, and then also it's easier to play because you can be using force with each hand, whereas the bowl is usually stationary. When the bowl's stationary, it can tip and stuff, right? So it can tip, whereas this one is very sturdy, very stable, and basically is upgraded in every way that it possibly could be, which feels really good. I was very, very proud of it, and people are pretty stoked on it. Like, I invented it less than a year ago. It's been since December. Probably sold like 150 bowls since, and I don't really, I don't know a lot of people, but contacted students and stuff like that, so they purchased them. But yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting because there's lots of different, obviously, crystal bowls out there, and there's different type of Tibetan bowls. I remember receiving a Tibetan bowl sound healing, and they had placed the bowl on my belly and on my heart chakra with water in it. So they were moving it around and then playing the bowl on different chakra points, which was super interesting. And the way that the water also was vibrating inside of that bowl and the way that that was reverberating with my body. And so it would be really interesting to feel what it sounds like to have your crystal bowl playing near me, or the sounds, and you being able to walk around with it and actually, touch people, or actually not touch, but actually go closer to people's different parts of their bodies. So it's a really special, I'm sure that this is a very special invention that you've created, and it will go places for sure.
Well, for me, the main thing, like, a person asked me, right? They're like, "How did you come up with this?" Then they asked, like, "How do you come up with all of this stuff?" Because there's things that I've thought of, right? And basically 100% of my mind is focused on how to make ceremony and sound baths better and to optimize them, right? Because I want to make the experience as powerful as possible for the people that come. And sometimes that means purchasing a more expensive instrument. Sometimes it means creating a track that I can play with the bowls, so we can got like an ambient sound in the background. So there's a lot of things that I continually do, but I spare no expense for it. Like 100% of the dollars I ever earn go back into it. But then also I spare no brain power for anything else other than my partner, of course. But other than that, like my existence is just continually just how can I make this better, and how can I optimize more, and how can I get this out there more. And the people that have tried it, this is the thing, I get to see the joy in them when they use it on people, and then they also get to, be stoked because the people are more happy, so they come to them and they're more happy because they're experiencing the tones on them. And then the person who gets to use the bowl is having more fun because the bowl isn't just stuck in one spot, right? They can play with it and they can turn it into a two bowl, or so yeah, it's a continual feedback loop. And this is a topic that essentially, once we are in this place of we've done healing, we start to become creators, manifestors, and that's part of this journey, of being human. And sometimes when there's something that is meant for us to do or to actualize and we don't, sometimes we can get ill health, or some sort of an issue, which it doesn't necessarily mean it's a disease per se, but we can start to feel tired, we can start to feel run down, right? And that's sometimes a sign that there might be something that you need to take action on. And this is the thing too, right? Sound healing can help us get clear on what that is, because it creates this space, right? The noise gets to just like simmer down a bit, and we get to go into that place. And I find some of the most creative moments and rejuvenating times I have are after I have an experience. And I just had one 3 days ago, and it was honestly phenomenal. Like, jump started my entire week, my workflow. I always got lots of things to do. So yeah, it's always great.
That is so empowering. It's so true. I have felt that as well. And for those that are beginning in regards to sound in general, not just sound healing and sound baths, but is there any other things that we can do to start to like learn about sound ourselves or practice ourselves in that form of healing?
Well, I would suggest carving out time in your calendar to go with someone that you know. If you don't feel necessarily comfortable going to some place that you don't know, searching, finding a place that you can go, experiencing it. If there's nowhere around you, because there are some places where it's still very fringe, YouTube, just put it on and go through your experience. I have some recordings on there. Hopefully, I'll have some more on your guys' thing. But yeah, like honestly, it doesn't require you to be in a space with people, but that is a good place for it to happen, because when we're in a space with everyone having the collective intention to heal, if everyone has the intention there, and then we're now going there, we don't really know what to expect, but we're hopping on this pocket of just like pure intention that we are all in this, and we love sound healing, and you don't even know what it is, but I'm around all these people that love it. Think of it, if you're at a concert, you might not like the people or know the people that you're hearing, but the vibe of everyone else can really make you feel excited, right? So it's the same thing, but not necessarily opposite, just different, right? It's like, oh, it can help you to relax and surrender and go deeper.
Beautiful. And so, for those that want to learn more about how they can get in touch with your work specifically, could you share with us your website and your practitioner's page?
Sure. Medicineofsound.com, and you can find my bio. It'll be like bio and contact on one of the options there. And yeah, you can get in touch also at medicineofsound@gmail.com. And yeah, if you are local to Vancouver and or around this area, you can play the bowls here. You can come to an event. If you aren't, you can hop on a call and we can figure out if the bowls are good for you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you can purchase the bowls with you from your page, from your website.
You can, yeah.
Your work is so beautiful, and I really love that this is now becoming a lot more, not as fringe as it was, but it's becoming a lot more popular. There's a lot more people into sound healing as well as breath work, and we're seeing a lot more of this move towards, because a lot of people that are not necessarily into meditation or yoga, they can start this whole scene with a sound bath. Like it actually is, it's a gateway to opening up to the possibilities of spirituality and healing through natural modalities. So I'm really just in awe of what you do. So thank you so much for bringing
Thanks,
this
sister.
this message to more people. And in saying that, in closing, I would love you if you could share. I mean, just because I am really interested in your specific stories of adventures through the jungles and the Amazon and meeting shamans. If there was a story that really stuck out for you, that was really interesting, that I think you would like to share with the audience, of something that happened to you that was so out there and was so interesting, but was so fringe at the time, but now you're actually like using it in your own practice.
Oh, that I'm using in my own practice. My mind was going to like crazy stories. Okay, something that was fringe that I'm using in my own practice. Okay, well, I just actually had this conversation with my friend a few days ago, and honestly, my teacher down in Peru, I was doing a training for 3 months, and I found it very odd. He created all of these rules, right? And those rules that he had, he did not enforce whatsoever. And I was just so confused because I was brought up in a cult, and I was like, rules are like do or die, So when I'd ask like the people that were at it. They're like, what do you think about this? Right? They're like, well, he has these rules, but if you inquire to him about the rule, he'll give you what he thinks. But if you don't inquire to him, he'll let you just be you. And through the years, like, I didn't understand that, but I truly feel like that is the greatest way to lead. Is from the place I'm in currently, I couldn't do that when I first came home. I was a rule person, and I was like, I needed those because they were boundaries that made me feel secure. But as I've matured, I've come to this place where observing each other, making mistakes, but when our friends inquire, what could I do differently? We let them know with all of our hearts, minds, and spirits what we think, but we wait for that time. So, if somebody asked him, what did they think about the person who was playing guitar? He said, I hated it. It was the worst part of the ceremony. I was like, well, don't ask him what he thinks then, if you don't want to know what he thinks. So, anyways, that's something that
But
I learned.
I really love that. It's a spiritual lesson in regards to life as well, isn't it? How, if we want someone to understand something, I guess I do it as well in parenting. If you want your children to understand something, yes, you can be the control parent and put a lot of rules in place. And if you break them, you're going to get punished. But really, what is the most beautiful way to teach? To teach from the heart, right? Just saying, these are the ideas that I have about life. Look, I don't really know the right answers, but these are some of the ideas that I have about life. You can, participate in them, or you can be you, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
you mess up and you're you and you have accidents or mistakes happen, then you can always come back and re-question those rules, right? It's such a beautiful lesson. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. So, just before you go, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience, or have you shared all your wisdom already?
No, I don't have anything particular to share. But if you guys ever have questions for me, I would love to at some point do Q&As. One of my friends has a bunch of people on TikTok, and she goes on there. And one day I want to do that. And if you guys want me to do that, let me know. And I would love to just Q&A and answer questions and go into this like that to me is my favorite place to be, and I hope to create that someday. So if you guys want that, let me know, and I will start doing that.
Let's do it. That sounds like a fun idea. We can do it with the Food Matters audience live, and we can do
That'd be
Q and
fun.
A. That would
I'm
be.
into it.
Thank you. All right, Chase. Well, thank you so much for this chat and this interview, and it was nice to meet you further and learn more about you. And thank you for sharing your time with the Food Matters audience.
Thanks so much, sister. Thanks for having me.
So yes, thank you everyone for listening. I really enjoyed that talk. I hope you did too. And there will be more of these on the Food Matters podcast. So head to foodmatters.com and see you again.